The coffee machine sputtered its last bitter drops into a stained mug. Sergeant Davis didn't notice. His eyes were fixed on the silent, ringed platform dominating the room. "Think they'll ever tell us what that thing really costs to run?" Corporal Jenkins muttered, leaning against the briefing room doorframe. Davis just grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. The air conditioning had been struggling all morning. A sudden, deafening screech tore through the base. Klaxons wailed as the Stargate's inner ring began spinning violently, chevrons locking into place with heavy metallic clunks. Davis dropped his mug. Ceramic shattered across the floor as he lunged for the control room. "Unscheduled off-world activation," Walter's voice crackled over the intercom. Soldiers poured into the gate room, weapons snapping up to aim at the shimmering blue vortex. The Kawush erupted, washing the room in cold light, then settled into the familiar rippling pool. But the iris control panel flashed red. It wouldn't close. Summary 1, Sergeant Davis and Corporal Jenkins were interrupted by an unscheduled Stargate activation. Soldiers rushed into the gate room as the iris failed to close against the incoming wormhole. A figure emerged, silhouetted against the event horizon. Not gold, not Jaffa. It stepped fully into the harsh gate room lights, a slender humanoid creature covered in pale blue fur, with long, pointed ears tipped in crystalline ice and a flowing, elegant dress woven from iridescent threads. An ornate silver device glowed softly at its wrist. It froze, wide violet eyes darting between the dozens of gun barrels aimed at its chest. A soft, panicked whine escaped its throat, though it straightened its posture, trembling fingers smoothing its dress. Daniel Jackson pushed past the front line of soldiers, his glasses askew. "My God," he breathed, wonder overriding protocol. "It's a Glaison." The creature flinched at his sudden movement but tilted its head, ears twitching forward at the unfamiliar name. Its gaze locked onto Daniel's face, searching for intent. General Hammond's voice boomed from the control room balcony. "Secure the area, weapons down, but stay alert." The soldiers lowered their rifles fractionally, though fingers stayed tense on triggers. The Glaison's shoulders relaxed a fraction, but its wide violet eyes remained fixed on the weapons, a low melodic hum vibrating in its chest, fear or communication. It was impossible to tell. Daniel took a cautious step forward, hands raised, palm out. "It's all right," he murmured, his voice deliberately soft. "We won't hurt you." The creature flinched again but didn't retreat. Its gaze flickered from Daniel to the silver device on its wrist, then back. It made a small, intricate gesture with its furred fingers. The device pulsed once, emitting a soft chime like frozen wind chimes. General Hammond leaned over the control room railing. "Dr. Jackson, maintain distance until we assess the situation." The Glaison's ears flattened at the commanding tone. It pressed its back against the cold Stargate ramp, tail curling tightly around its legs. A faint mist began swirling around its feet, crystallizing the concrete floor with delicate frost patterns. The soldiers shifted uneasily, breath visible in the sudden chill. Daniel ignored protocol, taking another slow step. "That device," he whispered, eyes locked on the ornate wristband. "It reacted when I spoke." The Glaison tilted its head, violet eyes narrowing in concentration. With trembling fingers, it tapped the silver surface twice. A holographic interface flickered to life above its wrist, geometric symbols pulsing in icy blue light. One symbol flared brighter as Daniel opened his mouth. The creature flinched when Colonel O'Neill's voice cut through the tension from the balcony. "Daniel, back off, we don't know if that's a weapon." At the sharp command, the Glaison's ears pinned flat. It crouched low, tail lashing, and the hologram dissolved. A high-pitched whine escaped it, like cracking ice. Frost spread rapidly across the ramp, creeping toward the soldiers' boots. Daniel held his ground, his voice deliberately soft. "Look at her eyes, Jack, that's fear, not aggression." He slowly knelt, bringing himself to the creature's eye level. Her trembling eased, slightly violet pupils fixed on his face. With painstaking care, Daniel tapped his own chest. "Daniel," he repeated. Her ears swiveled forward, and she mimicked the gesture with a delicate, furred hand to her own chest. A single melodic note resonated in the air. "Lyra." The silver device on Lyra's wrist pulsed again. This time, the holographic symbols shimmered into complex, shifting patterns resembling constellations. One cluster flared as she made a series of rapid, intricate gestures with her other hand. The frost stopped spreading. Instead, the air filled with faint, crystalline chimes that seemed to form distinct tonal sequences. Daniel's breath caught. It's not just a translator. It's mapping linguistic patterns. Colonel O'Neill descended the ramp stairs, his P-90 lowered but still cradled. "Carter, get a scan on that gizmo. Now." Lyra flinched at his proximity, tail wrapping tighter. Sam Carter moved cautiously from the control room doorway, a handheld scanner whirring to life. As the device emitted a low hum, Lyra's fur bristled. She tapped her wristband frantically, and the hologram flickered, showing a jagged energy spike coinciding with the scanner's frequency. The frost patterns flared brighter, creeping toward Carter's boots. "Sir, it's reacting defensively," Sam called out, backing up. Lyra emitted a series of sharp, crystalline notes, a clear warning. Daniel stayed kneeling, deliberately placing his hand flat on the freezing concrete. Easy, he murmured, locking eyes with her. We're just trying to understand. Lyra's panicked breaths fogged the air as her gaze darted between Daniel's open palm and O'Neill's tense posture. Her wrist device chimed again, the constellation symbols rearranging into fluid musical notation. The frost halted its advance. A hesitant melody drifted from the hologram, 3 descending notes that sounded almost like a question. Daniel mirrored the tones with a hum. Lyra's ears perked up, violet eyes widening. She gestured toward O'Neill's weapon, then made a slicing motion across her throat, followed by a trembling, open-palmed wave. Sam lowered her scanner slowly. It's proposing a truce, sir. The gesture sequence is clear. Cease threat, then offer peace. O'Neill hesitated, his knuckles white on the rifle stock, before barking, Stand down, weapons safe. The clatter of safeties clicking echoed in the sudden quiet. Lyra exhaled a visible plume of frost, her shoulders slumping as the tension bled from her posture. Daniel rose cautiously, extending his hand palm up toward her. Lyra studied it, then reached out with delicate, furred fingers. Her touch was startlingly cold. Like polished marble, but gentle. The hologram above her wrist flickered, projecting shimmering glyphs that rearranged themselves into a rough schematic of the Stargate, then zoomed out to show a star map unfamiliar to Carter. One system pulsed with urgent crimson light. General Hammond's voice cut through the quiet. Carter, verify those coordinates. Sam was already cross-referencing the symbols with the SGC's database. No match, sir. It's a completely unknown sector. Lyra tugged Daniel's sleeve urgently, pointing first to the crimson star, then to the Stargate. A low, mournful chime resonated from her device. Frost flowers bloomed across the ramp beneath her feet. O'Neill holstered his sidearm. Okay, Frosty, what's got you spooked? Lyra flinched at the nickname but focused. Her fingers danced over the hologram, pulling up a jagged angular silhouette, a warship bristling with weapons. She mimed an explosion with her hands, then clutched her throat, gasping dramatically. The air temperature plummeted. Hostiles incoming, Carter translated. And they're close. Daniel traced the crimson star on the projection. This is their origin point. Lyra nodded vigorously, ears flat. She swiped the hologram, overlaying a tactical grid. Dozens of red dots converged on a single blue icon, her homeworld. A countdown flashed, symbols Carter didn't recognize, but the urgency was universal. Sir, Carter's voice tightened. Based on the vector and speed she's indicating, they could be hours from her planet. O'Neill rubbed his temples. Hours. Frosty pops through our gate looking like she lost a fight with a snowplow, and now we're on the clock for a planet we can't even pronounce. Lyra flinched again at the nickname but tapped her wrist device insistently. The hologram shifted, zooming in on the blue icon. It resolved into a breathtaking vista, crystalline forests under twin moons, spires of ice reflecting auroras. Then jarringly, the image flickered to charred ruins, smoke curling over shattered ice. A choked whimper escaped her. General Hammond leaned forward, his voice cutting through the chill. Dr. Jackson, can she show us how she got here? Specifically, Daniel relayed the question with slow gestures. Lyra's ears flicked in understanding. With trembling fingers, she manipulated the hologram back to the Stargate schematic. A complex sequence of symbols flared around the event horizon, not Earth's point of origin glyph, but a shimmering, unfamiliar sigil resembling a snowflake. She pointed emphatically at it, then at the crimson star system on the star map. Sam inhaled sharply. So that's a dialing sequence, but the energy signature, it's bypassing standard protocols entirely. Lyra nodded vigorously, tapping her temple, then the snowflake symbol. Frost formed intricate patterns on the ramp as she mimed a sudden, jerking motion, an emergency escape. The hologram replayed her ship's destruction, jagged energy bolts tearing through crystalline hull plating moments before she vanished into the vortex. O'Neill scowled, so she hotwired the gate. Great, any chance those hostiles followed her? Lyra froze, ears swiveling backward. Her device projected a pulsing red dot streaking toward the Stargate schematic. A low, warning hum filled the air. Carter's scanner spiked. Proximity alert. Something. Approaching the gate now asterisk, sir. Energy signature matches the warship she showed us. Daniel grabbed Lyra's arm, pulling her back as the event horizon erupted violently. Not the usual blue shimmer, but a sickly crimson vortex. The gate groaned under the strain, metal screeching as jagged energy tendrils lashed out, vaporizing a security camera. Soldiers scrambled for cover, weapons snapping up. Iris status, Hammond barked. Walter's voice was tight. Still non-responsive, sir. We're wide open. Lyra's hologram flared crimson, projecting the angular war shuttle materializing just beyond the event horizon. The war shuttle was designed to travel through the Stargate. She emitted a sharp, panicked trill, fingers flying over her device. Frost exploded across the ramp, forming a shimmering barrier just as a searing plasma bolt tore through the gate. It slammed into the ice shield with a deafening crackle, steam erupting where energy met cold. The barrier held barely, but fissures spiderwebbed through its surface. Soldiers opened fire, bullets pinging harmlessly off the warship's dark hull as it nudged further into the gate room. Daniel shielded his eyes from the glare. She bought a seconds, Jack. O'Neill was already barking orders. Fall back, Carter, blow the emergency charges on the gate clamps. Sam sprinted for the control panel as the warship's weapons glowed anew. Lyra's shield groaned under the strain, ice shards raining down. Her melodic hum turned strained, desperate. She gestured frantically at her hologram, zooming in on the Warsaw shuttle underbelly, a cluster of pulsing conduits. Weak spot. Daniel yelled, translating her urgent chimes. Target the ventral array. The shield shattered. Plasma bolts screamed through the steam-filled chamber. Soldiers dove for cover behind blast shields as concrete exploded. One bolt clipped the Stargate's inner ring, sending sparks showering down the ramp. Lyra stumbled, her device flickering erratically. Frost still crackled at her feet, but it was weaker now, thinner. She pointed a trembling finger at the warship's exposed conduits, her violet eyes wide with terror. Light it up, O'Neill roared. Concentrated fire ripped from P-90s and mounted railguns, stitching a line of explosions across the dark hull. The warship shuddered, its weapons sputtering. Lyra's wrist device flared with blinding sapphire light. She raised her other hand, fingers splayed wide. A low, resonant hum built in the air, vibrating the floor plates. Pure crystalline energy coalesced above her palm, forming a beam of impossible cold and blinding brilliance. It lanced out with a sound like shattering glaciers, striking the warship dead center. There was no explosion, no fire. The Warsaw shuttle simply crystallized, instantly. Its dark metal turned opaque, frosted white, then dissolved into a billion glittering motes of ice that swirled harmlessly in the gate room's artificial light before vanishing. The crimson vortex snapped shut, leaving only the ringing silence of the gate and the stunned gasps of the SGC personnel. Lyra swayed, the intense glow from her device flickering and dying. She turned to Daniel, her violet eyes wide and filled with a profound, weary apology. A soft, mournful chime escaped her lips. Daniel's eyes darted down past the elegant dress. A dark, wet stain was spreading across the pale blue fur on her side, stark against the ice crystals still clinging to her fur. "You're hurt," he breathed, stepping forward. Her legs buckled. She collapsed onto the frost-slicked ramp. A sharp gasp of pain cutting through the stunned silence. The intricate silver device on her wrist sputtered weakly, projecting fractured, fading holograms of ice forests and crumbling spires. Frost no longer bloomed where she fell. Instead, the cold seemed to retreat from her body, leaving her trembling and vulnerable on the cold metal. Daniel was at her side instantly, his hand hovering over the dark stain spreading across her pale blue fur. "Medic, we need a medical team down here now," he shouted, his voice cracking. Her violet eyes, wide with pain and exhaustion, met his. She tried to lift a trembling hand, perhaps to gesture, perhaps to reassure, but it fell limply to her side. A faint, melodic sigh escaped her lips, more sorrowful than any word. The gate room buzzed with frantic activity. Soldiers secured the perimeter, weapons still trained on the empty vortex, while medics clattered down the ramp with a stretcher. Colonel O'Neill knelt beside Daniel, his usual sarcasm replaced by grim focus. "What hit her?" he demanded, eyeing the jagged tear in the elegant fabric of her dress. Sam Carter scanned Lyra with a handheld device, frowning at the readings. "Energy feedback, sir, massive," when she channeled that beam. It burned through her own systems. That wrist device isn't just tech, it's integrated, like a secondary nervous system. Lyra's breath came in shallow, ragged gasps. Her violet eyes fluttered open, locking onto Daniel's face. With immense effort, she lifted her uninjured arm, fingers trembling as she touched the silver band. A fractured hologram flickered weakly above her wrist, not stars or ships this time, but a complex diagram of interconnected crystalline nodes, one violently dark and cracked. She tapped the damaged node, then gestured weakly toward the Stargate, her melodic chime a strained, questioning note. Daniel understood instantly. The gate, the bypass sequence she used, it's linked to her. Sam Carter crouched beside them, her scanner whirring urgently. "Bioneural interface, sir. That device isn't just worn, it's symbiotically bonded. The feedback from channeling that energy, it's like she tore out her own circuitry." Lyra nodded weakly, a single tear tracing a path through the frost-dusted fur on her cheek before freezing into a tiny diamond. General Hammond's voice boomed from the control room, tight with command. "Medical team, priority evacuation. Get her to the infirmary now. Carter, Jackson, go with her. I want answers on that device and her physiology yesterday." As the medics carefully lifted Lyra onto the stretcher, her hand fluttered towards Daniel. He clasped it gently. Her skin was still marble cold, but the terrifying power was gone, replaced by a fragile vulnerability. Her violet eyes held his, pleading and exhausted, before fluttering closed. The journey to the infirmary was a tense blur of fluorescent lights and echoing footsteps. Lyra remained unconscious, her breathing shallow and rapid. The dark stain on her fur had spread, a stark contrast against the pale blue. Dr. Fraser met them at the doors, her usual calm demeanor replaced by focused urgency. Prep or two, she ordered, her eyes widening slightly as she took in the unique patient. Full bioscans, isolate that wrist device carefully. I need vitals and metabolic baselines now asterisk. Sensors were attached, but the readings spiked erratically, the integrated technology interfering with standard medical telemetry. Inside the sterile operating room, the true extent of the injury became clear. Beneath the torn fabric, the wound wasn't a simple burn or puncture. It resembled shattered crystal, jagged fissures radiating through her fur and the underlying dermal layer, glowing faintly with a dying internal light. The silver device, now dull and inert, seemed fused to her wrist bone. It's like her energy conduit backlashed, Sam whispered, observing through the observation window, her face pale. The device channeled power she wasn't physically equipped to handle. Daniel watched, his knuckles white on the glass. Dr. Fraser worked with meticulous care, but standard sutures wouldn't hold the crystalline flesh. Each attempt caused the fissures to pulse ominously. Lyra stirred weakly on the table, a low pain chime escaping her lips, her violet eyes fluttering open to meet Daniel's gaze through the window, a silent plea for understanding. Frost formed only in isolated patches around her now, a sign of her fading control. Sam Carter paced the observation room, her eyes glued to the fractured holographic readouts flickering above Lyra's inert wrist device. The bioneural link is destabilizing, sir, she reported to Hammond over the comm. That energy discharge wasn't just external, it caused cascading failures within her own crystalline matrix. It's like watching internal organs shatter. She pointed to a specific, spiking waveform. This signature matches the bypass sequence she used. The gate link is actively draining her residual energy. Inside the OR, Dr. Fraser carefully applied a cryogel pack to the glowing fissures on Lyra's side. The immediate sizzle of supercooled gel meeting radiant heat sent plumes of vapor rising. Lyra gasped, her body arching off the table, a crystalline chime of agony echoing in the sterile room. Her violet eyes snapped open, wide and unfocused, locking onto Daniel standing just outside the glass. Frost crackled weakly across the surgical table beneath her, then melted instantly. Sam Carter's fingers flew over a datapad linked to the bioscanners. So the cryogel is containing the thermal bleed, but it's only a stopgap. The energy signature from the gate bypass is acting like a siphon. Her core temperature is dropping precipitously. The monitors confirmed it. Lyra's vital signs were fading, her breathing shallow and irregular. The intricate silver device on her wrist pulsed erratically, projecting fragmented holograms of crumbling ice spires that dissolved into static snow. Daniel pressed a hand against the cold observation glass. Lyra's violet eyes, clouded with pain, found his again. With a trembling effort, she lifted her uninjured hand towards the device. Her fingers traced a complex, faltering pattern in the air above it. The hologram flickered, resolving not into symbols, but into a stark, three-dimensional schematic of her own body. Glowing crimson lines snaked from her wounded side, converging on a central, crystalline node near her heart, the source of the siphon effect. A single, mournful note hung in the air. Dr. Fraser followed the projection, her brow furrowed. The bypass sequence. It's anchored here, she murmured, pointing to the pulsing node. It's drawing power directly from her life force to maintain the unstable connection. Sam Carter's eyes widened in realization. The gate, so the wormhole signature is still fluctuating on the dialing computer, residual energy from her transit. It's acting like an open drain. On the table, Lyra's breath hitched, her fur losing its faint luminescence. Daniel didn't hesitate. He burst into the OR, ignoring protocol, his voice low but urgent. Lyra, how do we sever it? Show us. Her violet eyes, dimming but focused, darted to her wrist device. With agonizing slowness, her trembling fingers traced a specific, counterclockwise spiral pattern over the fractured hologram of the node. A discordant chime sounded. A shutdown sequence, Sam called out from the observation room, targeting the anchor point. Dr. Fraser acted instantly. Prep the micropulse emitter, set frequency to match the schematic's resonance signature, a delicate probe whirred to life above Lyra's chest. The hologram flared crimson as the emitter activated. Lyra gasped, her body tensing, a sound like cracking ice escaping her lips. The crimson siphon lines flickered violently. On the control room monitors, the fluctuating wormhole signature spiked, then flatlined completely. The drain was severed. Lyra went limp, her breathing shallow but steadier. The jagged fissures on her side dimmed from angry crimson to a faint, cooling blue. Frost still clung to her fur but no longer spread. Dr. Fraser exhaled, wiping her brow, vitals stabilizing. The thermal bleed is contained, for now. She carefully applied a fresh layer of cryogel. But that device, it's still fused. It needs specialized care we can't provide. Daniel stayed close, his hand resting lightly near her uninjured shoulder. Lyra's violet eyes fluttered open, meeting his gaze. Exhaustion radiated from her, but also a flicker of profound relief. Her fingers twitched weakly towards her wrist device, projecting a single, shimmering symbol, the unfamiliar snowflake glyph from the gate bypass. A soft, questioning chime followed. Home, Daniel murmured. She's asking about her home. In the observation room, Sam Carter studied the static-filled star map on her console. The severed connection erased our tracking data, sir. Without her device fully functional, we can't pinpoint her planet's location or status. She tapped the snowflake glyph now displayed on her screen. But this signature, it's unique. If we can stabilize her, maybe we can trace the origin. Daniel leaned closer to the surgical table. Can you show us the threat, Lyra, the ones who attacked you? Her violet eyes dimmed with remembered fear. With trembling effort, she manipulated her flickering hologram. Jagged angular warships materialized, dozens converging on a crystalline world. Then a new image, not ships but hulking, armored figures with glacial blue eyes and clawed hands, marching through ice forests as spires crumbled behind them. A low, warning hum vibrated from her device. Sam Carter studied the invaders' armor. Energy-dampening properties in their plating, sir. Explains why our weapons were ineffective initially. Lyra tapped her own chest, then mimed a draining motion. Her hologram zoomed in on the invaders' gauntlets, crystalline devices siphoning raw energy from the ice itself. She traced the path to massive cannons mounted on their warships. They consume worlds, Daniel translated her mournful chime, sucking them dry. General Hammond's voice crackled over the intercom. Carter, analyze those energy signatures, find a countermeasure. Lyra's hologram flickered, projecting a complex frequency wave, a resonant harmonic. She pointed to the Stargate, then to her own cracked device, emitting a questioning trill. Sam's eyes lit up. Resonance, sir, if we can broadcast this harmonic through the gate at their point of origin. Suddenly, the Stargate erupted with a violent crimson vortex. Metal shrieked as the unstable wormhole tore open, bypassing all safety protocols. The iris remained stubbornly open. 20 figures stepped through, shimmering with restrained frost. Taller and more powerfully built than Lyra, they wore intricate silver armor etched with glacial patterns, their violet eyes scanning the room with wary intensity. Advanced crystalline rifles hummed in their hands but remained lowered. The leader, his fur marked with battle scars, stepped forward. He raised an open palm, then gestured toward his own throat, shaking his head. A series of complex, melodic tones flowed from him, layered with frustration. The SGC soldiers tensed, weapons snapping up. Hold fire, O'Neill barked, stepping protectively in front of Lyra's stretcher. The Glaison leader flinched at the weapons but repeated his gesture, his tones shifting to a softer, almost pleading cadence. He pointed emphatically at the Stargate, then swept his arm in a wide arc, mimicking an encroaching wave. His warriors shifted nervously, frost crackling faintly at their feet. Daniel pushed forward, mimicking the leader's open palm gesture. They're trying to communicate, warning us, he murmured. But about what? The leader's violet eyes darted past O'Neill, locking onto Lyra on the stretcher. A collective gasp went through the warriors. They dropped to one knee in unison, heads bowed, their melodic voices rising in a complex, harmonious chant filled with reverence and sorrow. Lyra struggled weakly, her own chime soft but regal in response, acknowledging them. The leader rose, his gaze intense. He pointed urgently at the Stargate, then at Earth itself, his tones sharpening into a staccato rhythm of alarm. He traced a symbol in the air, the jagged outline of the invaders' warship, then pointed back through the vortex. Daniel caught the meaning instantly. They're not the threat they came to warn us, Lyra confirmed with a frantic nod, her hologram flickering to life. It showed the crimson vortex stabilizing, the angular warships gathering on the far side. Preparing to jump into hyperspace, the warships were huge and would soon be in Earth's orbit. Her melodic chimes were strained but clear, a countdown superimposed over Earth's Stargate. The destroyers, Daniel translated, his voice tight. They tracked the residual energy from her escape, and the battle, they're coming here. Now. The destroyers will reach Earth in 1 week. The Glaison leader stepped forward, urgency radiating from him. He gestured sharply at his warriors. They moved with disciplined speed, unfurling crystalline devices that unfolded like intricate snowflakes. One pressed a shimmering disk against the Stargate's inner ring. Instantly, the unstable crimson vortex solidified into a deep, steady blue. They're stabilizing the wormhole, Sam breathed, watching her sensors, locking it down to prevent another uncontrolled breach. The leader then pointed emphatically at the gate, then at the ceiling, his melodic tones layered with warning. His hologram projected Earth's solar system, a pulsing red dot rapidly approaching from the Uat cloud. 7 Earth days. Lyra struggled to raise her head, her voice a fragile chime. She pointed at the warriors, then traced a path through the gate, her hologram showing their sleek, ice-forged vessel waiting on the other side. Next, she projected Earth's Stargate, then gestured broadly to encompass the planet itself. Her chimes were strained but insistent, a plea for understanding. They're returning to their ship, Daniel translated quickly, his eyes widening. Not retreating, they need its main drives, to bring it here. He pointed to the hologram where the Glaison warship vanished, then reappeared orbiting Earth. To defend us. The Glaison leader gave a sharp, approving nod. He barked a melodic command, and his warriors moved as one, stepping back toward the shimmering blue event horizon. Each paused briefly before the leader, touching their foreheads in a salute that crackled with frost. Their violet eyes held a fierce determination. The leader himself lingered, turning to Daniel. He placed a furred hand over his own heart, then extended it, palm open, toward Earth. A complex sequence of resonant tones flowed from him, layered with solemn promise. He pointed once more to the countdown on Lyra's flickering hologram, 7 days, then stepped backward into the vortex, dissolving into blue light.